The Mimic method is an adult second language acquisition approach with one simple principle. Language is acquired through mimicry. Amazingly, humans create and process an average of 30 distinct speech sounds per second. To handle this enormous task, we first had to learn to recognize the sound patterns, or flow, of our native language. Then, we had to develop a phonetic infrastructure in our speaking and hearing with which to process these patterns automatically. As infants, we built this phonetic infrastructure by constantly mimicking the people in our environment. This phonetic infrastructure, however, is language-specific. In other words, it is not going to be able to process a foreign language, since every language has its own flow. To demonstrate, I'm going to say something to you in gibberish. I want you to listen closely and mimic what I say exactly how I say it. Fertigan Razo Wugwali. Fertigan Razo Wugwali. Notice how, even though this phrase wasn't made up of any real words, you were still able to mimic it easily. This is because it was made up of sounds that fit the flow of English, so you already possess the phonetic infrastructure needed to process these sounds automatically. Now, I'm going to say a phrase to you in my mother's native language of Edo. Once again, listen closely to what I say and try your best to mimic what I say exactly how I say it. Agariak boinsaek behi. Agariak boinsaek behi. As you should have noticed, this phrase was much more difficult to mimic than the English gibberish. This is because the flow of Edo is completely different from the flow of English. Therefore, you lack the phonetic infrastructure needed to process the sounds of Edo. The reason why 95% of adult language learners fail to achieve true fluency in a second language is because they never learn the flow of that language. Instead, they skip this most important step and dive straight into writing and grammar instruction. As a result, they develop an accented version of the language that sounds completely different from the native one. By definition, it is impossible to mimic with an accent. And if you cannot mimic, you cannot attain true fluency. So, if you're already learning, or you plan on learning, a foreign language, the most important thing for you to focus on right now is mastering the flow of your target language. This means forgetting about grammar and writing for a while, and instead taking time out to train your auditory perception and speech organ motor memory. In the Mimic method, you train these abilities using a special technique called Rhythmic Phonetic Training. In Rhythmic Phonetic Training, you learn to sing songs in a foreign language with a perfect accent. Each time you sing these songs, you actively develop the phonetic infrastructure needed to hear and speak the target language automatically. I'm sure you already have a habit of singing songs out loud to yourself while doing other things, since most people do. Nurture this habit, and you can train your target language's flow anytime and anywhere. Rhythmic phonetic training is based on techniques to use to teach musical instruments. Just as a guitar player learns to coordinate his fingers with different musical notes, you can learn how to coordinate the muscles in your mouth with different speech sounds. Through the use of interactive audio aids, you take a song, slow it down, learn the sounds and rhythm separately, then practice putting it all back together at normal speed. Just like learning the guitar, the process is challenging, but the musical learning environment makes the experience fun and engaging. As you progress through the program, you will learn increasingly difficult songs, and eventually, you'll even be able to rap in your target language. The Mimic method places strong emphasis on the rap art form, because rap is most similar to the speed and complexity of normal speech. I know what you're thinking. How can I possibly learn to rap in a foreign language without already being fluent in it? Actually, you can rap in a foreign language without understanding a single word. Don't believe me? Listen as this MimicMethod student raps through a verse of Spanish rap without having a clue as to the meaning of a single word.
Es una asesina, ella conlleva la medicina engañadora que te envuelve y te domina.
If you're wondering how this is possible, remember that rhythmic phonetic training is a musical technique. The same way the brain can memorize a sequence of complex finger movements for a guitar song, it can also memorize a sequence of complex tongue, lip, and throat movements for a rap song. Just think about all the song lyrics you've already memorized in your lifetime without even trying, and you'll realize that there's really no limit to what your brain can do when music is involved. And just how the guitar student advances on his path to guitar mastery with every song he learns, you advance along your path to second language mastery with every song that you learn. So if you're interested in taking your first real step towards second language mastery, check out the languages available in the MimicMethod Flow series. And you might as well know right now, the flow programs are not easy. Mastering the flow of a foreign language requires completely reorganizing the way you perceive and produce speech sound. It's challenging, but I'm sure you can think of a few less interesting ways to study a language.